Yeah, I do know, EJ. Hey, everybody. Welcome in.
Yeah.
Welcome into the live stream. Don't you
Oh.
want to know what we were talking about right before we got
Oh,
went
you
live?
so do.
Don't you just want to know what we were talking about? Yeah, so welcome in to a little pre-party here. I talked about this with Lester before our podcast and during the podcast on Monday. We had a chance to kind of sit with it for a day. And I'm just curious how you sat with that loss relative to the loss the week before, which is a very similar, on the road losing, by one score. How did you feel relative to that? And Lester actually brought up that he felt better about the loss of the Vikings than he did about the win against the Texans. So I'm kind of curious about your feelings about those.
Yes, in hindsight, on Sunday, I didn't feel great about it because Sunday I was watching all the games. I was at Buffalo Wild Wings and I was watching the entire first round of games. And I watched the Bears game kind of most closely. I picked my spot based on where I can see the Bears game for sure, and then several other games that I'm most interested in. And then I kind of have the rest on swivel, timeouts and whatever else. But watch the Bears game. And the first, pretty much the first half, certainly the first quarter and a half made me just sort of hang my head. Starting at the very first play, and we'll talk about that, right? Like penalty, your first offensive play, not enough men on the field. Like it was like, come on, guys, like at least start okay. So I kept watching, and I watched pretty closely, and there's a lot of not great plays in the first quarter and a half. And so I was watching the whole thing. Watching all the other games, I kept going back, and it seemed like every time I turned back to the Bears game to say, okay, I'm going to watch a play or two or three plays right in a row, it was the stuff you didn't want to see from the previous weeks. And so I was really starting to have this feeling like, come on, folks. And there's a Vikings fan sitting right in front of me. He's a nice guy, but it didn't help. He's like, yeah. And I was like, oh, okay. If he's cheering, it was terrible. And so I watched it a little bit less closely through the beginning of the third quarter, and then they started to push, right? They started to string plays together, and the Vikings guys started to get bummed out more often. And I was like, all right, I'm going to go back and start watching, more of this because they're doing something. And I was sort of riveted. I was like, this looks like a completely different team. That's when I put out the tweet that said, I don't know what they sprinkled on their orange slices at halftime. I didn't know that competent football team was available in a powder form, but whatever, they got it. It's in them. This is what it's supposed to look like. So then I kind of surged in interest and stopped watching the other stuff. Wasn't wild about the way it ended. I was happy that it ended on a high note. I still felt like, why did you dig yourself such a huge hole in the first half? Now, cue forward to today, go through the all 22, look at the first half, because I didn't cheat like I did last week where I just stopped after a half because I was so upset. I started, went through the whole thing. I actually feel much better about it. I felt a little better about it on Sunday with the second half and the surge and competent offense for, I don't know, really the first time all season. We're going to talk about some stuff in the first half today that made me feel even better about what went on throughout the whole thing, even though the results weren't there. We're going to show you a couple of plays that they were there. They're right there. And we'll tell you why they didn't work. And it wasn't always the Bears' fault, which is pretty cool. So I feel really, having gone through this, it is clearly the best game of the year for the Bears on offense. And so, yeah, I feel better about it than the Texans game, which they won, but didn't play particularly well. And that happens to all teams in every season, I think.
Yeah, I agree. Just comments. Yo, hey, how's it going? And Tiff says we need to win tomorrow. We haven't had success on primetime. We just haven't had success, period. I mean, like that's just kind of overall.
Let's be honest.
Hasn't been that great, but I agree because you know what, guys, I'm going to be there. So I would like to see success because
Are you going?
Yeah, I'm going to be at the game tomorrow.
Dude, do you know the Irish Bears Show guys are going to be there?
We'll have to try to find them. I'll send them a note. No, I did see that they're
flying over. I was on their show on Sunday, and three of them are coming for this game, so they're probably either in the air or landing soon. So yeah.
So I'm taking number one Bears fan, my mom. So her first Bears game.
What?
Yeah, very excited.
Is that? Wait a minute. Really?
Yeah. Not her first time to Soldier Field. She's been to Family Fest a couple times, but this is
I'm
first Bears game.
I'm wow. Okay. That's
Yeah.
a thing for those of you listening along on the live stream. Jeff's mom is our first largest and greatest fan. There is no competition there. She will never be knocked off that pedestal. She is the one that taught him about Bears fandom, along with, Grandpa and everybody else. This is a family affair for the Burks clan. And she's never been to Soldier Field for a game?
Just practice.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
So
amazing.
this is a pilgrimage. This is a big deal.
That is amazing, dude. I am so psyched.
And
That's really cool.
I have not told her where the seats are.
Nah.
So you'll find out with everybody else tomorrow when we post pictures. So
did you did?
No, she's watching. So let's
you did. Okay, cool.
All
right.
Let's play it cool.
All right, we'll play it very cool.
Yeah, nothing's going on here.
Nothing to see here. Don't look behind the curtain. We talked about that earlier with Bill Belichick. Don't look behind the curtain.
Let's what do you say we record a podcast?
I don't know. You feel like it?
I do.
Okay, cool.
Do this. All right. Welcome to Bears Over Beers. I'm Jeff Burkus, a writer for Windy City Gridiron, and I'm joined, as always, by EJ Snyder. EJ, the Bears are 2-3, but feeling a little bit better about the prospects of the rest of the season after a nice comeback in the second half of that game.
Absolutely. There is hope in Mudville, which is Chicago for right now. It is a very different turn than really at any other point this season. Through 5 games now, and the offense has had fits and starts. They have not strung things together, and they have not looked, well, I'll just say competent for any stretch. And they did that a little bit against the Vikings on Sunday, and they did it in the second half. Wish they'd done it in the first half too, but let's not get greedy. It was a nice thing to end on a positive note and say, aha, this is what we could be seeing, given a few shifts that we'll talk about, but it was encouraging, and there has not been a lot of encouraging this season.
Yeah, and I think that overall you have to feel pretty good about any kind of progress that you can get. And the first 4 games were rough for a lot of reasons. To break down an offensive line, the weapons on the outside have not been particularly good. David Montgomery has looked good, and then he was hurt. Cole Herbert looked good in his stead. And now they're kind of both back, and those guys didn't necessarily contribute that much in the run game on Sunday. David Montgomery certainly did in the passing game, which was nice to see. But you're starting to try. You've now seen a couple pieces work where you're like, hey, what if all of these came together at the same time for an offensive game plan in one game? Would that be pretty good? And so I'm wondering if Washington might provide the backdrop for that, because they're a pretty average defense. There's nothing really that special about them. Their offense isn't very good, but that's a different story for another day. And so you wonder if maybe some of this can translate over into the next game, because these things do take time. You are still figuring a lot of this out. And so is there any carryover from what we saw this game into Thursday night? Quick turnaround here. But anything else about the Vikings game before we move on?
No, it was good. It wasn't good as an overall effort, but we're going to talk about not only the positive things. There were certainly plenty of negative things that happened in the first half, but maybe one of the, I think, the strengths that are superpowers of Bears Over Beers this year is that we get to shine a light on things that everybody says, that was all terrible, or that was all great. And very few things are all terrible or all great. And the first half of the Vikings game was no different. There were some really nice things that occurred. They didn't pan out. That's how the ball bounces sometimes in football. But you can see, hey, there were multiple elements working here, and it was really close to happening, which would have made it a very different game. And it wasn't just, they screwed up again, which there's been a lot of this year. So it was nice to just sort of get out of that rut, and hopefully we can bring you along on that ride.
Well, let's get into the drinks. On this show, if you are new, we like to have a beverage. And I've now just kind of decided that I'm just going to bring bourbon on after a loss. Um, More than anything, because I really just wanted to open this new bottle.
It's very pretty.
I got this in Chicago actually when I was in training camp. I hadn't been able to find it around here. This is the Smoke Wagon small batch straight bourbon whiskey from Las Vegas. So this is a Nevada product, and I actually believe it's a MGP bourbon for those of you that care about bourbon. So it's brought over from distilled in Indiana, then brought over, and then they barrel it in Nevada. They do some stuff. It's got a very cool little wax logo there. But I figure since we're going to be talking about the shooter, this was a pretty good one to bring on. So the Smoke Wagon for me tonight. I've been excited to open this up since August. So
good cork sound too. I know. I love the name.
going.
Smoke Wagon is amazing.
Yeah, it's got the 2 6 shooters. If Justin Fields, like, let's go.
Yeah, let's do this. I'm going right down the middle because we got to see some right down the middle plays. And by that, I mean, offense is not always exciting. Good offenses are often kind of boring in the fact that they take what's there, they move the chains, they keep drives going, and there's not been a lot of that to celebrate. So I went right down the middle with my beer as well. Good old red, white, and blue.
Oh my!
This is not exciting, not sexy, but it will get the job done. And that's the offense that Chicago really needs to establish as a base. Look, all the great big fancy shots down the field, those will come if you have a base and can keep yourself out there and can keep the ball moving. So we got to see some of that. We got to see this offense go, hey, there's nothing there. I'm not going to take a terrible chance. I'm just going to move the chains. And we got to see it 2 or 3 times in a row. And that was actually, to me, really exciting. So this is more a celebratory beer than you might think.
So this is, did you even say the name? It's PBR.
Yeah, PBR, absolute
PBR me ASAP.
I don't know that anybody really needs to hear me say it once they see the ribbon. I mean,
but not everybody's. This is also an audio podcast for
I know
those
PBR, 16 ounces of PBR.
Yeah, sure, tall boy. So my grandfather was such a PBR fan that he had a kegerator put into the dining room that had a PBR tap. So that's amazing. That's a memory that I'll always have. There's got to be photographic evidence of that somewhere. I'll have to.
I'm sure you'll have to ask your mom because
see if mom can pull that out and I can tweet it out. But
we're gonna have to Photoshop me in there as black and white pulling the handle because that'll just be the span of generations.
I'm not sure that I ever did that. I mean, certainly not for myself, but I don't know if I was ever asked to go, pour a beer. But
really.
I bartended at while I was in college.
Sure.
So maybe that was, already learned behavior before
muscle
I got
memory.
Yeah. I was like, oh, this is familiar. How do I know how to do this so easy?
I used to fill my bottles up as a kid.
So let's talk about, just real quick format this year as EJ and I are going to pick a player. And I think it's probably important to just note that you could spend 50 hours on game film each week. Like you really could. You could go in and you could grade every player. You could diagnose the plays. You could really spend a lot of time with the film. That would be great. If somebody wanted to pay me a salary to just do Bears film breakdown of everybody, sure. But that's also, I think I would probably go crazy after a while. But we try to go in, I spent 2.5, 3 hours doing my prep tonight. EJ's, more than that, to try to break down a player. That's what we're trying to do this year, is to really go in deep on one player each week. We can't do more than one, just from the time that it takes. And then certain players, or at least one player in particular, we will team up and we will try to cover it from different angles. And that's Justin Fields. And that's what we're going to talk about this week. And so, normally we would kind of flip for who's going to go first. It just makes more sense with how EJ broke down Justin Fields for him to start on this one. And then I'll come in with more of like mapping out the pass plays statistically over the year and kind of show if there's any patterns and I'm going to continue to do that throughout the year. So we'll have updates on Justin's progress throughout the year as well. So this is not the only time we're going to talk about Justin Fields. I imagine we're going to have at least 2, maybe 3 more times where we're going to come back and we're going to talk about him and break down the film. this was the first game that we really could do this, though, with not just being completely depressing, because it's been a rough start for Justin. But I think that he showed a lot of good stuff on Sunday, and so I'm really excited to get into this. EJ, you took a look at the All-22, and you've got kind of your background in him, that you scouted him coming out a couple of years ago. So why don't you start us off with that breakdown of what you saw of him as a prospect, and let's go from there.
Absolutely. Is anybody, before we get started, surprised that JB has charts?
Yeah,
If
raise
you
your
are,
hand,
you're
wherever you're
new.
at.
Welcome. We're happy to have you on the show. Justin Fields, drafted in the first round out of Ohio State, number 11 overall. He was drafted in 2021, so that makes this his third season in the pros. He is 23 years old. Keep that in mind. He was not an overaged prospect when he came out in the draft. All the things that we are heaping on him as the starting quarterback of a seminal franchise in the NFL, he is 23 years old. Lots of room to grow. He is 6'2 and a half, 228 pounds. We talk about RAS, or relative athletic score, a lot on this podcast. He did not have a full RAS score, because if you don't run enough of the tests, they give you an incomplete, basically. He did not fully test. He only ran, but he was fast, and we all know that. 4.46 in the 40, very fast for somebody his size, and a 1.59 10-yard split. So not just fast, he's quick too. That shouldn't come as a surprise to anybody that watched his game at Ohio State, or his game since he's been in Chicago. He has a good set of wheels under him. 2021 last year, played in 12 games and started 10. Was 159 for 270 on pass attempts. That's 58.9%. Totaled up 1,870 yards. He had 7 touchdowns versus 10 interceptions. He took 36 sacks, which is an 11.8 sack percentage. That's the number of times, sack percentages of the number of times you tried to throw the ball. How many times did you get sacked? So they take out other snaps that are not pass plays and just get down to, hey, if you're trying to pass, how many times do you get sacked?
EJ, let me ask you, as a prospect coming out,
Mm-hmm.
there were 5 quarterbacks taken in the first round
That's
of
right.
that draft, plus Davis Mills a little later on. Where did you have Justin Fields in terms of that, quarterback ranking for that year? And then I'm curious if you could add in, well, you could add in this year's prospects, but I know that there's nobody that's going to top him from this year.
Yep.
But what about like the previous couple of years? Like, where did he stack up for you in terms of that quarterback ranking coming out?
Yeah, it's a great question. Justin was second the year he came out to Trevor Lawrence, and not by much. He was pushing for the first spot for me, and that was not a super popular viewpoint, but it wasn't a super unpopular viewpoint. I was not the only voice in the chorus saying, with a couple of turns, depending again on where he lands, because where they all land, quite frankly, because landing spot is so important, not just to quarterbacks, especially to quarterbacks, but to all players in the NFL. We see it time and time again. Talented player lands in a great spot, they go off immediately. Talented player lands in a not great spot, they might do okay, but they might not until they move or the regime changes. Both Trevor and Justin landed in terrible spots, which was a bummer for NFL fans and fans of those franchises. Justin had a lot of really good things. He had some limitations as well. His really good things: deep ball accuracy. He has always been a great deep ball thrower outside the numbers. He has a tremendous arm. We talked about the wheels. He is really good in a play action attack. His limitations were quick game. He's sort of the opposite of Tua Tagovailoa coming out of Alabama. Tua was a quick decision maker, quick throw maker, a get it to your receiver and get yak guy. That was his gig. He's really good at it. He's still really good at it. That was not Justin's gig. It's not largely what he was asked to do at Ohio State. And he takes a second to process, and he always has. And that's okay. You can design a very successful offense that way. But he's got a great arm. He's extremely intelligent. I've never spoken to him personally. Everyone I have that ever has directly says sharp guy. Very high football intelligence. Rarely makes the same mistake twice. So he is all there in terms of what you want from a quarterback in processing. There's a physical piece where it doesn't translate, and it takes a little while, longer to spin up, and that's going to be magnified when you get to a faster game like the NFL. And we've seen that. We saw it, in the first couple of years, and we've seen it even this year as he again learns a new offense, new terminology, gets used to new teammates. There were certainly times throughout the first 4 games, for sure. We saw a lot less of it this week, which is great. But the first 4 games where you're like, come on, man, come on. It's there. Throw it, get rid of it, move, do whatever. And it was just a tick too long. And, that results in sacks, broken plays, lots of things.
What about the year before? Would you have drafted anybody, beforehand? Or I don't want to push you too hard, but
yeah, no, I mean, year after, you were correct. There's nobody from last year's class that would have pushed him. He would have remained sort of number 2 if you combine the last 2 years worth of classes. The year before, he probably still would have stayed there. He's a very good prospect coming out, has all the physical tools you want. Again, tons of football intelligence, very coachable kid. Very good prospect. Like, great. Was he Andrew Luck? No, because he had his limitations. But he's like, whatever the next half tier down is, he's right there as a moldable guy that's already had success. He's not, you look at folks like Josh Allen who are coming from Wyoming, and there are always going to be questions about level of competition, and really what Josh put together as a college resume was very, very different. What Justin had put together as a college resume was, we got it. Like, I've done it. I've beat everybody I need to beat. I've put up huge statistics at a school that has a very heavy schedule. Like, there weren't any more questions for him to answer in college.
Yep. Okay.
So 2021 production, not great, but we know that was a year in which Matt Nagy did not have a plan to integrate him, didn't give him snaps with the first team. He came in kind of by necessity, got thrown to the Wolves in his first game, got sacked a billion times, and didn't look a whole lot greater after that because the coaching staff, as we know, failed to adapt and certainly to shift to his skill set. Not ideal. When I talk about landing spot, that's what I mean. A coaching staff basically acting actively against you, which is a terrible, terrible thing. 2022 production so far, we all know it's not great. We're through 5 games, 49 of 88, so that's 55.7%. We've all seen those struggles. 679 yards passing, that's the lowest in the NFL currently. 3 TDs and 4 interceptions, so middling on both. Not a lot going on. And 18 sacks, which is a lot. If you remember, he took 36 all of last year and we're only 5 games in. That is a 17% sack percentage. Last year, 11.8, which was not great. That's high. 17, a lot worse. So we all know the offensive line has been a massive problem so far, and getting him time there. We've all seen many, many plays where he has less than 2 seconds to establish himself, and offenses don't work when you have less than 2 seconds. There are very few plays on an offense that work in less than 2 seconds. So not great, but we saw a turn on Sunday, and that's what feels pretty good about this. So the raw numbers say, oh God, terrible failure. Like, get him out of here. That's why you don't just look at raw numbers with really any player, but certainly developing and certainly young quarterbacks takes a bit, especially when they haven't been in the same system year after year, which Justin has not. And everybody's still sort of meshing, gelling, learning. That's why you don't throw the baby out with the bathwater after 4 games.
Yeah, I think that one thing to kind of think about is these numbers are still really low in terms of sample size for a quarterback. Like, none of this is stabilized, and then you have the weirdness of the early games. So it's not like this is going to be predictive of what the rest of the year is going to look like. And like you say, it felt like a little bit of an inflection point. You got the new offense, but overall, I think you're seeing, that sack percentage is crazy. And if that continues, like, it's, you're going to be setting some team records here. Basically, this is how bad that is, potentially. The touchdowns, interceptions, you never want to be under water. You'd like to see 2 to 1 or better in terms of ratio. So we'll track that. We'll see if that can improve. But the rest of it, I think, is a lot of it's just been small sample size. Game flows have been a little weird. They've certainly had success in the run in a couple games, and it's kept some of that volume down. But hopefully, we see more than, let's see a 30 pass game at some point. Let's see what that looks like. Let's see him going. Let's see if he can get into a rhythm here.
Yeah, the thing to remember is if you're sort of truly counting, and Unholy Roller says second year, true. Second year as a player, third calendar, you got it. Second year as a player for Justin Fields. The thing to remember is if you add it up and depending on how you consider his first year under Nagy, even with total number of games he's appeared in, he is just passing one full season. Right? Like right now.
Yeah, it's like 15 starts in.
Yeah, and if you go 12-5 with appearances, that's 17, and that is, the new number of games in a season. He is just now passing one full season. So this would be like the end of his true rookie season if that was a thing. It's not, but it's something to keep in mind with that low sample size. So I've got a lot of plays. I'm not going to go through them all. I'm going to pick out some of the ones I think are most instructive, both in the first half and the second half, because again, there were some things in that first half. I was watching that first half live and I was like, ugh, this is terrible. But again, I was watching all the other games too, so I didn't hit every play. And as I went back and looked certainly in more detail at the all-22, there were some of those plays that were really good. So I want to hit a couple of those in the first half, and then we'll move into the second half because I want to talk about production in just this game. If we're talking about small sample size, one game, this game against the Vikings used 15 for 21. Completion percentage jumps to 71.4. Again, we've been talking about numbers in the middle 50s. For this game, 71.4. That's a pretty solid number. It's a really solid number, actually. 208 yards, bit low by overall standards. But again, we all saw the first half. There were only 95 yards worth of production in the first half. 208 turned out to be a decent game. One touchdown, no interceptions. I like that. That's solid. Interceptions can be fickle. It's not always a quarterback's fault, but I love the number 0. That's great. And 2 sacks. Just 2. That is nowhere near an 18% percentage. It's way lower than that. So all of those numbers are better, every single one. And the 118.7 rating is 33 points higher than any other rating he's had this year. So massive improvement across the board. This is why we get excited about this particular game. We saw progress. We saw some good results. First play I want to talk about is pretty early in terms of Bears possessions. First quarter, 7:43 left in the quarter. Bears are marching. They basically scheme up a play action shot, and it gets snuffed out by DPI. Bum, bum, bum. So the Bears did everything right. Vikings pulled a penalty. Bears still get the gain off DPI, but that penalty was for a reason. If there are good penalties and bad penalties, if you're a defense, this was a good penalty.
Right.
Because if he doesn't pull him down, it's a touchdown.
This is Patrick Peterson basically saying, "I'm beat. I'm a savvy veteran. I know what happens here if I don't do this. I'm pulling the emergency cord."
And this was a play, again, if you were watching this on a TV angle and you're just really frustrated and you didn't see the contact, it looks like Justin missed him by 15 yards because he threw it as if he wasn't going to be impeded. He gets impeded, knocked down on the sideline, so the ball sails harmlessly over his head, and you think, God, why can't the Bears do anything right? If you look back at the all-22, the timing for this play was on. So small fake pitch to the left out of the shotgun, and then Justin basically reverses field and rolls right. This is a design to give him time. Get the defense flowing to the left. I'm going to move to the right, and I'm clearly looking at my 2 options on the right, the short to medium option, and then this double move, which is going to take a second to develop. But if I get a one-on-one on that double move with Mooney, I'm probably going to take the shot. He gets the move. He takes the shot. He gets him one-on-one. He takes a good-looking shot here, too. This ball is catchable. It is inbounds. It is on time. Like, this is I got him. Peterson knocks him down. I don't got him. So, fails to complete. Patrick Peterson, again, he bit on the double move, and as soon as Mooney was next to him, he's like, this is the last time I'm going to see that guy. Because I took a step forward when he throttled down. He is now equal with me, but I'm moving the wrong way. I'm never going to catch up to him. Patrick Peterson is not as fast as he used to be. He is much bigger than Darnell Mooney, and he simply uses that to knock him over. He just goes, nope, forget it. I'm going to drag you down. You're not getting this. Without that, it's a likely TD. Harrison Smith is racing across the field. He maybe makes a play at the pylon, but I bet Mooney scores because the ball was out there. He was even and leaving with Peterson. That's a game changer. Middle of the first quarter, you throw a deep play action shot and score. That is a tone setting play. And the only reason they missed it is because the defense got burned and said, you don't get to. Like everything else for that play lined up. He had protection. He rolled out. He threw from a good base. He threw on time. Mooney hit the move. He was going to be there. The defense was not in position with a layer behind him. That's probably a touchdown. So
Even and leaving is fantastic. I don't know where you picked that up, but that's
what? Have you never heard if he's even, he's leaving?
I love it. I love it.
Oh, God, it's a great scouting term, which means like, hey, if you're hip up, and we saw this with Devontae Adams in the game on Monday night. That was the most disrespectful hand raise. So when receivers are open or they think they're open, they'll throw their hand up to signal the quarterback. It's called a flag. So they'll flag the quarterback. And Devontae Adams is even and double covered and throws up the flag. Most disrespectful thing I've ever seen. And this is the long looping touchdown when Carr threads it in over two guys. Devontae Adams goes, I don't care if there's two guys on me and they're on my hip. Dude, throw it. And he does, and they score. And I was like, holy crap. One of the coolest things I've seen. I was like, what does he do? Oh my God, they hit it. That's great. Fun stuff. There's another missed Mooney TD, and it's only like a minute later in game time. Quarter 1, 6:46. This is a missed TD to Mooney. I know you've watched this play a ton of times. I saw you going back and forth with Doug Farrar on social media about it. So situation, ball is at the Vikes 27. The Bears run Mooney. He is aligned to the field, which is the wide side. When I say boundary, you're on the hash closest to the boundary. You would be in between the hash and the boundary. Field is the open side, the side with more space. So Mooney is aligned to the field in the slot, and he runs what looks like it should be a corner route. At least that's the route that Justin threw. Now, a corner route is like a post route. It just breaks away from the ball. It's the same route. Post breaks in towards the ball. Corner breaks the same way, but out away from the ball. So Mooney in the slot to the field, runs up, and looks like he's supposed to be running a corner route basically to the pylon. And this is the question, is which pylon?
Yep.
Because he runs vertically, like he stems more vertically. He gets a good move. Mooney is exceptional at turning defensive backs' hips. He will put in a stab step that will get them to turn the wrong way, basically run around through their blind spot and, use his speed to get open. He is a great technician that way. He does it every game multiple times. He did it multiple times in this game. This is one of those times. So he gets this guy to turn to the inside and he starts running towards the end zone. He has him. Again, he is pretty even with him, but he has good leverage. Cornerback is inside. There's space to the outside. This is set up correctly. So again, they get the one-on-one, but they miss because of this communication. Mooney runs really vertical, almost kind of like a 9 fade, which is like a corner out, but adjusted a little bit towards the middle. He doesn't cut as steeply as you think he would if he was going towards the front pylon. Justin throws it to the front pylon, and you get this awkward sort of adjustment, turning my route a little bit steeper, and I'm a step away, as opposed to it felt like to me, and I have no inside information here, that they were in the huddle, and he said, "Cool, man, run it. I'm gonna throw it to the pylon." And Mooney went, "Okay," and he thought back pylon because that's the way he was running, and Justin thought front pylon, and he threw it to the front pylon, and Mooney went, "I can't quite turn enough to get that," even though he was open and had leverage. So just miscommunication from the Bears, but the play was run correctly, had protection, threw presumably what's a good ball. We don't know. But because of miscommunication, that ball drops harmlessly to the turf, not a touchdown. Again, they could have had another one right then, a minute later. 2 touchdowns in the first quarter on the road in Minnesota. Like, okay, that is a very different looking game.
I came to the conclusion that, miscommunication is a very fair way to put it. I think that and Justin knew where he wanted to put that ball and put it on him. I don't think Justin misses the throw by 7 yards of actual space. I think that ball was exactly where he wanted it. And so you just have to assume it's miscommunication. We talked about how much these guys work together in the offseason.
Mm-hmm.
Not quite there yet, right? Like you said, maybe just not directly communicating exactly what they needed there. Maybe they read something wrong, in the moment. But I think Fields definitely put that ball where he wanted it. And he lets it go, and Mooney's not out of his break. That's exactly what you want, right? Like everything about that was great.
Yeah.
It was just that they weren't on the same page, and then it looks terrible.
Yeah.
But when they are on the same page, that's a touchdown, and we're all freaking out.
Easily. Like, that's an easy
Super easy
touchdown.
touchdown. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
There's no, like, DB was gonna make a play on the ball. He couldn't have. It
No,
would have been DPI. It would have been on the 1-yard line. Like, the whole bit. Like, that is an easy touchdown if they get the pylon right. So, again, hopeful, but look terrible on the field. You're like, why can't the Bears do anything right? He was open. He didn't hit him. You go back and you go, oh, man. Like, that was just that. There's no other explanation for that. I want to talk about the first PBR throw of this game. This is a corner hole shot that's just dropped. Second quarter, 4:18 a game clock. Ball in the Bears 40. This is a long developing route down the boundary. It is basically ESB, far side, aligned to the field, running down. He has to outrun the short coverage and stop before he gets to the long coverage, which is the safety coming over the top. He does it beautifully, takes a while. Justin holds the ball. He has enough time. He hits the hole. There is a hole there between the short corner and the long corner. He throws it high. ESB is a big guy. He jumps up, he gets both hands on it, and he flat out drops it. He literally, it
no contact, just
hits him right here. It's not a contested catch. He's looking right at Justin. He turns, the ball's coming. It's not right on top of him too quickly. He holds his hands up and he just bricks it. He just flat out drops it. And that, why I call that a PBR throw is that was, again, a well-designed throw against the defense called. He had enough time. He delivers it smoothly on target for the receiver in question. He wouldn't have gotten hit even right after he caught it. He would have had a step when he came down before he had any contact. He just flat out dropped it. And that's 23 yards worth of pitch and catch production. Like, you drew it up, you say, go out there and stop. When you turn around, it'll be there. It is. He didn't catch it. So, again, line protected. Justin made the right call. Justin made a very good throw. You get nothing for it. And you go, why can't the Bears do anything right? And, but it's, again, different receiver, different day, even same receiver, different throw. He caught some later in the game. That's like as easy and straightforward and black and white NFL one-on-one offense. Like, that is a chain mover, pure and simple. It's right there. They had it, and then they didn't. So still not, you don't get psyched about that, but you look at it and you go, that's this far away from being a 23-yard completion, which is an explosive play by anybody's measure. So doesn't look like an explosive play. It's not super sexy. It's literally, 15, 18-yard stop route. Just didn't work. So that's a PBR throw that just ended up on the turf, which is a bummer. Last one I want to talk about in the first half. This is the big completion to Mooney. Second quarter, 154 left. This isn't even a particularly well executed play. Like, it's good enough, and I don't want to try and put too fine a point on it or say, oh, he could have done this or he could have done this. Like, it was good enough to make a play. He made a play. This is more Mooney hero ball in terms of making the reception than it maybe needed to be, but it doesn't matter. This is what it looks like when you win. So I don't want to get too nitpicky or carvy about this play. I just want to say it was more spectacular in the end than it probably needed to be. So ball's on the 50. The Bears go empty. They went empty a lot in this game, which is basically 5 wide receivers, no backs in the backfield. Empty shotgun. They went empty shotgun a bunch in this game. And it's trips to the field, which means 3 receivers to, again, the wide side. Mooney wins the release and turns the DB. Stop me if you've heard this one before, because he'll do it over and over again. He does it here again. DB makes a really nice recovery. There's a technique called speed turn, which is exactly when this happens. You turn your hips the wrong way. A fast guy starts going the other way. You just basically bail. You flip your head as fast as you can and start just pin your ears back and run for 5 yards before you do anything. DB does a pretty nice speed turn and gets back in the play here. He is with Mooney as this ball starts to come in. The ball's pretty well thrown. And by that, I mean he gives his wide receiver a chance versus a defensive back with inside leverage. He gets the ball out there. It is past him, and it is towards the boundary, which is exactly where it's supposed to be. Is it the finest throw? No, but it's a football game. You don't always make the finest throw. This throw is what we call good enough. Didn't hang the guy up. Didn't overshoot him by 5 yards. It's in the envelope. It's in the big cone of catchability, if you want to think of it that way. Is it perfect? No. Is it good enough to make a play on? Obviously it is. Now we get to the part that's a little odd. So Mooney sees it coming in. He slows. This is vet savvy already. Slows just enough to get a hand on the defensive back. Nothing that's going to get him OPI or anything else, but he slows down just enough to engage the defensive back. And right as the ball comes, he makes this really dynamic move where he basically disengages, leaps sort of backwards and up towards a pylon and snags it with one hand. That is a wildly dynamic move. It requires a lot of athleticism and a ton of skill. Like, this is a timing play through and through. Could he have simply turned and caught that over the shoulder, Willie Mays style? He could have. Might he have gotten contact over the back from the defensive back that he wanted to basically separate from a little bit? Yep. Did it make it a much harder catch? It did. But he completed the catch. Again, this is what it looks like when you win. Justin threw a good enough ball on time in the right place versus the defensive back with leverage. Mooney decided to catch it however Mooney wanted to catch it, and he caught it. Like, end of story.
This is like a high dive, and the judges are like, "Oh, the degree of difficulty on this selection is 10, right?" Like, I mean, he went for like the highest degree of difficulty, and then he made it, and it was like, "Whoa, this is like a perfect score." Like you said, if he does more over the shoulder, or if he does a move to where he goes up with both hands, and brings that down, which I think, like you said, he slowed down a little bit. If he keeps running, he could probably do that. Try to get both hands on it, one way or the other. It's not nearly as impressive, and so that's just instinct. That at some point he's making his athletic decision in the moment. That's not something he could probably even explain to you. It was just a feel thing, but the result is one of those catches we're going to watch forever. I mean, that's the reality. That play is now part of what we are as Bears fans. That's how great of a catch that was.
Yeah, I was looking at something else, another game when this happened, and then I saw it in the halftime highlight loops that came up on all the games, right? And I was like, when did that happen? Holy crap, that seems pretty amazing what they got out of that. I was like, okay. So the end zone play at the half, just before the Monty TD, I just wanted to bring up, this is not a great design. So this is a passing play right before the Monty TD. Two receivers end up on top of each other in the end zone. They basically run like mesh. And if you're familiar with mesh, the two inside receivers go up and cut and usually cross, but there's no more room in the end zone. And so these two guys and their defenders go up and cut and basically meet at the field goal post and kind of like go, oh, now what do we do? There's four of us here. Like, so it wasn't really where the play was designed, but it was not a great design for a red zone play. Probably should have been adjusted. Doesn't really matter. We end up getting the Monty TD, and then it's halftime. So based on that first half, what I just described sounds a whole lot different than the way I felt during the first half when I was watching this game, which was dejected. I saw a lot of penalties. I saw a lot of missed opportunities. I saw very low scoring, and I went, oh man, like, again, it just felt like every time I looked up, they were doing something wrong or something bad or something wasn't going their way. And when I went back and watched y'all 22, I'm like, that could have been a 21-point first half. Like, easily through the air. Like, they ended up scoring, but like there's 14 points straight up within the first like half of the first quarter that they missed by a DPI and a miscommunication on pylon. And then there's, a couple more throws in there that could have easily led them to a touchdown drive. They could have scored 21 points through the air in the first half, like easily. That's not a stretch. That's not if everything came together. That's like if two things went right.
Right.
How'd you feel in the first half when you were watching? I bet there was some screaming.
I don't do that much anymore. Watch by myself. I'm, pretty calm. Try to be calm during the game. I'm getting a little bit wiser in my old age. I think that I was a little frustrated because you can't really tell in real time exactly what's happening, but that especially the pylon ball, I'm like, that's there. Like that's just missed opportunities. And, like that first penalty coming out of the game where Blasting Game's running onto the field and they like the refs run up, hey, you're substituting, even though you're just bringing the 11th guy on. And sometimes it's like, hey, just run the play with 10 guys. If that's what you're going to do. I don't know. So there was just kind of frustration from that, and it was a lot of frustration on the other side of it. And you just thought, okay, well, I mean, this confirms some priors that I thought at the beginning of the year. Vikings are a much better football team. This is going to be a boat race. It's not going to be fun. It's going to be a rough week. And then, towards the end of the first half, it's like, okay, a little something going here. And then they get the ball. Maybe we can see if we can make a game of this.
Yeah, I think I felt the same way. I put out a tweet right before halftime, said, man, they're going to have a complete turnaround just to keep from getting boat raced, like just to keep from getting blown out. Like they have to change almost everything, including on the defensive side, which we're not talking about today. Terps in the comments said there was nothing wrong with throw by fields. I don't mean to say there was anything wrong with throw fields. The throw fields was where it needed to be for a receiver to make a play versus a DB with inside leverage. If you want to get into the ticky-tack finer stuff, I tried not to. Could he have thrown a nicer ball? Yeah. Did he need to? No, that was a perfectly good ball. And I don't want to say anything else contrary to that because I don't believe it. It was a good enough ball for sure by Justin Fields for his receiver to go make a play, and that's what you want your quarterback to do. Big fan of JT O'Sullivan, the QB school. He's on YouTube. Check him out, former NFL QB. Love the way he communicates, talks about the game. And he'll say this, like, yeah, you can get like super pick it apart. That's not the way this works. That ball's good enough. Like the quarterback has to throw the ball there, and he threw it there. You can get super picky, but that's what had to happen, and it happened. So good enough. It's kind of like a lineman grade, right? Plus or minus. That's a plus throw. It's where it needed to be. So good call out, Terps.
Let's pause right here for a quick break, and we'll get into the second half on the other end of it. All right, EJ, let's get back into this. Let's talk about the second half, and then let's talk about some statistics stuff and some mapping stuff that I did.
We'll run through a bunch of these more quickly. Quarter 3, 12:45. We get Kmet down the seam. Good God, this is a celebration moment. Not only because we saw it so many times in preseason, we all assumed that this was going to be a staple and a mainstay of the offense. We were really excited about it. This is the simplest route you can run, folks. This is a really simple stop route to the hole in the zone. It's basically run 10 yards and turn. Like that's the route. Lined up in line, balls on the Vikings 46. Kmet is in the tight slot to the boundary. Snap, runs 10 yards, stops, turns around, catches the ball. This is a PBR throw, big time. This is a chain mover. I turned around, the ball's in my numbers, and then Kmet bulls for some really nice yak, which he has a tendency to do. Love that. That's just a plus. But in terms of like play design and simplicity, this is A plus B equals C in NFLEs. Like run out there, stop between the two guys. I will hit you between the numbers, then do your thing. And they did it. And we've seen them not do that a lot in the first 4 games. And it was like, that's it right there. You need 2 or 3 of those a drive, and it'll keep just do that more. He can do that. So I was really excited about something, somewhat simple. Seems like boring stuff, but it sustains drives, it scores points, and it wins football games. That's the truth of that throw. Third quarter, 11:34. Justin rolls out of a sack for a clean first down run. This is Justin bailing out of a pocket that is disintegrating for the right reasons at the right time and using those wheels positively. In the first month of the season, we saw him bail out of some pockets, and I don't blame him because his line has been evaporating at strange intervals, and that does not lead to a lot of security as a quarterback. So we've seen him bail out of some good pockets, some clean pockets. We've seen him bail out too early. This is not that. This is him avoiding what would be a clear sack, rolling out to an open side and picking up an easy first down. And he needs to do that. That's a facet of his game. It threatens the defense, and this is a perfect example. Ball on the Vikes 18, so this is a red zone play. 2 wide receivers to the boundary, 1 tight end in line to the left. It's an unbalanced formation to the right. They're trying to move the Vikings that way. They're definitely looking for the passing options on that side. Fields wants Kmet down the seam again. Kmet's on the right side of this formation, but he's bracketed by 2 defenders, so this is the right call. Like Fields pulls this ball down, and he should. He looks right at Kmet. He's got a guy underneath him and a guy over the top of him. He's running kind of down a little middle hook route to the tight end or to the end zone, and he just lets him go. He's like, nope, not going to throw that ball. And he shouldn't in a compressed situation inside the red zone. feels the backside pressure. This is a great quarterback skill that's not really quantifiable. Either you have it or you don't. Fields has it, spins out, whole open side. Left side is wide open because there was no receivers over there. All he's got is green grass. This is an easy, no contact first down run. This is my favorite kind of quarterback run. Like, use your wheels, slide past the marker, don't take a hit, fresh set of downs, you're tighter in the red zone. Like, this is just good. Like, saw the throw, said, nah, nope, and immediately whipped out of there, turned around to the right side, and because he's got a great set of legs, just past the marker easily. That's frustrating to a defense. They basically cover all the receivers. Quarterback makes a speed turn and he's gone. So love that play from Justin. It's running for the right reason. Third quarter, 6:38 left game time. Chain mover to Mooney. This is just like one they missed in the first half. They missed a little second quarter out route to Mooney because he threw it sort of low and behind him. He did it on purpose. He was trying to insulate Mooney from a hit. He was trying to keep from leading him into a defender, but that ball dropped to the turf, and it was one of those, again, sort of throw it in the bucket of why can't the Bears have nice things in the first half. Different route, different setup, same throw, and this is just a little chain mover.
This was the little whip route from Mooney.
This is the whip route. Exactly. Yeah. Nailed it. Ball in the Vikes 24. It's 3rd and 4. They need it. Mooney's in the slot to the boundary side. He jukes the LB in short coverage inside. One above it. Ball in Bears 45, 3rd and 6. They need it. They motion Mooney to get to empty. He's in the backfield when it starts. He comes up and across the formation. That helps Justin see the defense, understand whether they're man or zone, and get his sort of pre-snap look aligned. Cornerback is playing off. Mooney runs a little whip route to the inside, which basically looks like a little in-breaking route. You pirouette and head towards the sideline. It's basically just a hard fake to the inside to give you a little bit more for the out. Fields is on time and on target with this throw. It's only about a 3-yard throw. He throws it about 3 yards short of the sticks, but he hits Mooney right in the chest while he's running. Doesn't miss him low and behind like he did in the first half. Mooney easily gets out there plus 5 yards because he's quick, gets past the marker, scoots up the side. Beautiful, again, PBR throw. This is a chain mover. On time, on target. Simple throw, get it past the sticks, new set of downs, keep moving. Loved it. Next play, Getsy dials up a deep shot. Fields doesn't like the look of the coverage, so he runs for another first down. Love it. He looks at it and he goes, nope, I don't need to. Like, I could, but I'm not 100% sure that one's going to work, or even 70% sure. So I'm going to use my legs and I'm going to scoot. I'm going to get another first down. I love that. This starts to frustrate the Vikings. You can see it. They're like, damn it. We had the guys covered, right? We had everything all covered up and we didn't account for him. And he's got another first down. And now they get to take 4 more shots at us. Not cool. You can see it. There's some bowed heads in the Vikings defense on the A22 after this one. Third quarter, 144, another missed TD to Mooney. This is a bummer. Ball in the Vikes 24, 3rd and 4. Mooney's in the slot to the boundary side. This is one I wish they had. It's tough throw. It's tough throw. It's tough catch. Like, it's not, oh, he should have hit it. It was wide open. I don't mean to make it sound like that.
Right.
So jukes the linebacker in short coverage inside and then toasts Harrison Smith towards the corner, and he is open. He is hand throwing up open because Harrison Smith is not going to catch him right away. Fields is already rolling right. He was looking to this side. This is where this play was supposed to go. Placement is key here. He leaves it a little bit shallow instead of pressing it deeper into the end zone. Again, this is a super fine slice on what is a tiny throw.
Right.
He throws it right at the right time. If you look at when he lets go of the ball, it is just when he is starting to break Harrison's ankles. Like, he couldn't have thrown it much earlier because, again, if Harrison throws a hand up and blocks him or whatever else, he's going to be throwing that ball into space, into nowhere. It's going to look terrible. So he throws it as soon as I think he probably humanly can. And that makes it so it's tight just because of the angle that they're running at towards the sideline, corner of the end zone. Harrison's got good makeup speed. He ends up making a play on this ball. And it's one of those things. Like, could he gone a little bit deeper to the corner? Yeah, but that's an insanely difficult throw. You know, could he have thrown it a little bit earlier? Maybe. I don't know how. That's almost that Brett Favre, I know he's going to get open. That Aaron Rodgers, I've worked with this guy for so long, I'm just going to heave it up there because I know he's getting open. I don't care how much they worked in the offseason. They're not to that level. So this, I think, is the best possible throw Fields can make under the circumstance, and it just doesn't work out, but they missed it by like this much.
Yeah, you wonder, I mean, again, Mooney gets open, and so how many people running that route, particularly on this team, are going to be able to get that kind of open in that situation? If you're throwing a T Higgins is catching that because he's able to body that ball a little better, right? Like he's able to use his size. He'll high point it, twist around. Harrison Smith's not going to be able to make a play on it. Mooney doesn't have that size. And so it's one of those plays where probably did about the best you could, at least like a 90 percenter. And the margin for error is very, very small and just didn't happen. And he give Harrison Smith credit for recovery and making a nice play on the ball. I mean, that was a veteran play.
100%.
He knew exactly what he was doing in that moment. He timed his jump, he timed his swipe. That was about as a perfect defense play from where he was, a second and a half before that. So it's a very impressive pass breakup. I agree with you. The only thought that I had was like, God, could he put a little bit more on it? But then he put a little more on it. You know what I mean? Because Mooney kind of slowed up a little bit. Maybe is a little bit more mustard. But again, you're really picking nits here, and it is what it is. I think you got to just kind of tip your cap to the other guy at that point.
Yeah, it was very close. It was a bang play. Could have gone either way for either team. Went the Vikings way. Could have gone the Bears way pretty easily. Reminds me of that scene in Goodfellas where they're slicing the garlic with the razor blade, right? Just little finer. You can do that all day long. It turns out it's just a good play. The other guys get paid too. But again, it wasn't a bad play from the Bears. It wasn't a huge mistake or a bad miss. It was a good play, good design, good play by the other guys. That's all it is. The phantom rushing TD. This is Fields' long TD called back by a somewhat questionable, well-acted holding call. This is impossible to defend against, folks. This is what Justin Fields brings you. The Vikings have a guy on Fields. They have a guy on Fields, and he just runs around him. He flat out runs right around him. He's like, I see you, and you're not going to catch me, and you can't even reach me, so I'm just going to run around you. And then he just snakes through the rest of the defense because he is fast. He has good vision. He slips through another little tackle that I would expect to be made because of the angles of the defender. Just breaks the angles with the speed, runs right through the middle of it, and they're both are just like, I thought I had him. And, goes the rest of the way, snakes into the middle of the end zone. Great sell by Dantzler on the holding call. Threw his hands up, fell over. It's going to happen sometimes. It scares a defense. Like they were worried before or frustrated because he was picking up easy first downs. This scares a defense. Quarterback just takes off. When you have a guy on him and runs 50 yards for a touchdown, it's not defensible, right? You need to have a Justin Fields on defense shadowing Justin Fields. Not everybody does. And this was a case where Vikings got caught by it. They got very lucky that they got that call. I mean, it does happen. It's not an exceptional call or an exceptionally terrible call. It was well acted. Vikings got it. Good for them. They were still shitting themselves about this one because there is not a way to fix this. So first play after the penalty. This is one of my favorite plays of the whole game, and it's super PBR throw. This is a blitz beater. Ball's on the 50, 2nd and 9, empty. Kmet's in the tight slot to the field. Kmet's defender blitzes. He has a linebacker lined up over him and a defensive end. They both blitz. Justin sees it immediately, and what you do is throw into the blitz. They tell you over and over again as a quarterback, if you're going to throw hot, throw into the blitz. Throw where they just vacated that space. He sees him immediately on the blitz, nails Kmet in the chest on basically a little hot slant route. I love this play. Love it. Means he's got great pre-snap recognition. He sees it immediately. The throw is perfect, and Kmet just goes and gets yards. Goes from being what we've seen typically as a negative play, a big sack, to a big positive play. And my favorite thing about this is it's on tape now. If you hit these, defenses will blitz less. They will not. Once you prove you can beat it and hurt them, and you do it somewhat consistently, they will blitz less. Fields will see less blitzes because of this play. I love it. Looks super simple. It's bang, bang, super quick. Gets a snap, nails Kmet. Kmet just mashes into a defender and run. Like looks like, oh, okay. No, This is a great play. It's exactly what you're supposed to do, and he does it beautifully and immediately, and it's going to save him some punishment later in the year. And I love everything about that. The check down to Montgomery, I love it again because it's a check down, right? Take what the defense gives you. If it's not there, get what you can and live to fight another play. He checks down to Montgomery. Montgomery gets a big gain out of it, which is nice. But again, it was the right call. He was looking at the halo of receivers farther down the field, didn't like anything. Montgomery was right there. He pops it to him. Montgomery ends up making a really nice run after the catch, which we know he can do. That's awesome. And the sack 2 plays later. Mooney's open in the middle of the field, but this is not on Justin. Like, Kmet makes a chip block, which is not great. And it's one of those things where he chips the guy and he chips him to the outside. And he doesn't chip him very much. And he pushes his path slightly farther outside. And Montgomery comes up with a more interior angle and then can't reach the guy because he's supposed to be picking up off the chip. So there's 2 guys, 2 offensive players assigned to this blitzing defender or rushing defender. He's not a blitzer. And neither one of them get him, and Justin gets sacked immediately. So Mooney did come wide open in the middle of the field. Justin had no chance to see him. That guy basically ran on a pretty straight line, and Kmet went, ugh. And Mooney went, oh, crap. That means he's outside the radius, and I can't get him. And he's directly in Justin's lap, inside 2.1 seconds, something like that. So you might look at the all 22 and say, oh, he's got receivers. And then you look back and you're like, oh, yeah, and he's got a defender in his grill right now because 2 guys were supposed to stop him and neither one did. So just one of those things, little breakdown, more to what we've seen in the first month, one of the few negative plays from the second half. And then last play, $1:34 left in the game. Supreme sack avoidance becomes a big play. Ball in the Bears 25. It's 2nd and 19. And without this play, there's no hope. There is no Mir Smith-Marset fumble. Like, that play never even happens. Jenkins gets beat. He gets flat beat. Guy gives him an inside. He leans hard on his left foot. Guy goes around to the outside. He turns around and dumps him, pushes him in the back and dumps him at Justin's feet. Justin sees the 300-pounder basically get delivered onto the top of his cleats. He still, as that's happening, hits Montgomery in the middle of the field. Montgomery makes this big gain, he gets 22 yards just short of midfield, and all of a sudden it's sort of the Bears are in business, right? This is the Bears in business play. Happened because Justin reacted really, really quickly to a rusher that, again, was on him way faster than he should have been, and he just got the ball to his playmaker. I love this. This is a chain-moving play. So when you stack all those plays up and then you stack the stats he had and the ones he missed, the ones he left on the field when he hit guys in the hands or he just missed a touchdown on the boundary or, miscommunicated with Mooney, like, this easily could have been a 300-yard, 3-touchdown game. Like, very easily could have been a 300-yard, 3-touchdown game. And if he has that game, we're talking about this in even a completely different tone. We're already talking about it in a positive tone. We're talking about it in a glowing tone at that point. So there's a lot here to like.
Yeah, I agree. And going back and watching it a little closer, you feel even better about it. And I think that's the point, is like, you have to go test those assumptions, right? Like that. Otherwise you're just kind of like, yeah, I think I played pretty well. And, that's with all of these guys, right? A lot of times when we're picking the players, sometimes it's like, yeah, seemed like Montgomery had a great game. I'm going to go back and I'm going to look at it. Or he obviously had a great game. I'm going to go back and look at it. How much was him? How much was the line, right? That was kind of the question I wanted to answer. You're trying to answer a question when you're going back and watching all these players, in depth, for you're just watching them or you're watching the play design and all that. The quarterback, you kind of have to understand everything that's going on, but you see it. Whereas before, haven't really seen it. And so it was
not consistently. And that's
here and there, of
course. You get a flash, but it's like 1 a
Right.
quarter or 1, 2 a quarter, but they're 10 minutes apart in different drives. And you're just like, that's not winning football.
No,
and
you gotta
all of a
stack 'em.
sudden you started to see good plays. You started to see basic and kind of mundane plays that help drive stack. And you're like, oh, and then you see a couple of big shots and they work or they're really close. And you're like, all right, that feels like it's working. Like, that feels like somebody said to me, I think it was Bill Zimmerman said to me when I was on his pod, felt like the offense belonged in the NFL. And I was like, yeah, that's what it felt like. And it's true. When you see that happen, if you haven't seen it happen for like a month, yeah, we started asking some questions about, when this thing needs to turn the corner and soon, when is it going to happen? This looks like a bit of a corner turning.
Well, let's add in screen here for those of you that are watching on YouTube. You'll see my PowerPoint uh, slide here. For those of you that are listening, uh, we'll post this. You can see it otherwise to get an idea here. But I just wanted to map what Fields' throws look like in this game. But I wanted to start with what he was able to do in the first four. And what are we seeing anything? And again, it's the monsoon game. It's it's against a good defense. There's all those caveats and all that kind of stuff. But if you really map out his throws in the first four games, he's 34 of 61, 471 yards, 2 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. That's really bad statistics. If you look at a lot of where he's throwing the ball, there's a lot of screens. There's a lot of behind the line of scrimmage throws or at the line of scrimmage throws. Overall, not bad in terms of his ability to complete those. Not that that's high degree of difficulty, but a lot of them aren't getting blown up or anything like that. There's some good gainers in there as well. The screen game isn't terrible like it's been in years past in Chicago, so that's good. I would say there's definitely favoritism on throws to the right in the early games for sure. That there's a higher volume to the right. He had both of his touchdown passes to the right, but also a couple of his interceptions to the right, at least, right hash over, and then one down the middle of the field, that ugly one in the middle of the field. Not a lot of shots in the first four games. There's 5 balls past 30 yards over 4 games. I don't think that's probably enough for a guy like Justin. And of course, the volume's not there. But anyway, I just wanted to map that out first, kind of see what that looked like before I mapped the game. And so I'm going to, again, for the YouTube people, I did do a little animation here to show
Of course you did.
the progress of the passes through the game. So if the dot is moving, that means there was a yards after catch in the path of the run. So that's what that stands for there. But basically, as you kind of see this game progress, you're seeing that most of the incompletions happened early, and then Justin in the second half was incredibly efficient. And if you break it out by quarter, the first half, there was barely any real activity in this passing game. In the first quarter, he was 2 for 4, 34 yards. Second quarter, 1 for 4, 39 yards, which has really shocked me. I didn't expect that. And then third quarter, 6 out of 7, 72 yards and a touchdown. The touchdown was behind the line of scrimmage, and Velus Jones did the rest, but still counts as a touchdown. It's a pass. And then the fourth quarter, 6 for 6, 63 yards. I mean, this was, you saw Kirk Cousins, and Kirk Cousins starts off hot. He's 17 of 17. He sets a team record. Looks like they're just going to boat race the Bears and all that. But then, he started to kind of go back to Kirk Cousins and not be 17 out of 17 for us. I don't know. His stats were still good at the end of the game, but, he started slowing down. Whereas Justin started a little bit rough, and then really, and some of that wasn't his fault. There was those drops and all that, but then he really started picking it up. And so part of what, and again, this is one game and there just isn't a lot of volume, but you get this sense that hey, this guy's kind of like a guy that needs some reps. Like, you need to keep feeding this. It's almost like one of those running backs. It's like, when he's got his 20th carry, he has softened up the defense. So it's Derrick Henry, right? Like, where you keep feeding him the ball and he just softens the defense, and then he looks incredible down the stretch in the fourth quarter because he's got everybody on his heels. You just wonder if Justin just needs to get into the game a little bit. And there's a lot of that, like, get him some easy completions early or whatever. I just think you need to just call his number more. I just think you need to get him into the game. It's not even just easy completions. It's just get him playing. Just go. And maybe it's one game. You can't find a pattern in one game, but it sure felt like once he got into it that he just was on a roll. And so how do you get him in early? You don't need to baby him, just throw him in. Like, let's go. Let's get him. Don't let him overthink things. Just get him playing ball. And so the third graph that I pulled up, I added all of those game 5 throws in with the map from the first 4 games so that you can see how I've mapped that out. And then I pulled the next gen stats graph where they put the quarterback rating and compare it against the league average. So the green spots are where Justin's performing particularly better than the league average quarterback for that zone where he's throwing the football. Red is less worse than the average quarterback, and yellow is about average. And so when you map it out here, I just found it kind of interesting. There's 3 spots where it's green. They're well over 100. You don't have enough data in any of these spots to say like, oh, he's really great in this area of the field. It's too early, but this is something that maybe you can kind of see as we go along if there are some areas that emerge. But for the most part, this map isn't that bad. For a quarterback that has had a rough start, this map really isn't that bad. Short area to the right, just not a lot of volume, but it's not great in terms of the production there relative to league average. And then there's nothing deep middle, but other than that, he's been pretty good to all areas of the field, or even really good in some areas. And so I guess it's early. You have to keep mapping this. You don't have critical mass, particularly, 5 games you might for some quarterbacks, but the
Sure.
way that this is broken out, we don't have that here. We don't have enough volume to really tell much here. This is more like 2.5 games for a typical quarterback, right? So, we'll revisit this again down the line, and we'll see if we can kind of see a little bit more once we have more data points. But I think overall, my original or my initial takeaway from kind of mapping this out and seeing this is that he isn't necessarily taking enough deep shots for my liking, because that's what he's good at. And so hopefully that increases, but he is willing to make pretty much every throw. Like, you see a lot of throws along the sideline. You see throws over the middle. There isn't a hole where there's just nothing. There's some quarterbacks that will not throw over the middle, or there's some quarterbacks that will not make those throws along the sideline because they don't have the arm for it, right? Like, there just are some throws that some quarterbacks can't make because of their height, right? I'm thinking Russell Wilson, right? Like, there's just some areas of the field he won't go to. I don't see that here. I see a quarterback that's willing to throw wherever. There's just not enough volume here to really, show the true story of where the season might go for him.
Yeah, it would be different if we had a higher volume of throws. Say he threw 30 passes a game for five games, right? 150 passes. Like, I think we would have a different picture. And obviously, if the games were a lot more like the Vikings game, we would have a very different picture, because that feels like the first time to me this season that the Bears passing game specifically was really working. There have been times where the rushing game has been amazing this year, and looked on point and able to get yards whenever it wanted to. But it was this dichotomy of like, well, the rushing game is crushing people. And then, they tried to pass. Boy, did that look terrible. Nobody got open. He got sacked over and over and over again. So it was this real like black and white 1-0 binary kind of thing. Can't run an offense like that. So the Viking game was the first game where I felt like, oh, no, they're getting plays in the passing game. And, going back and looking at the all 22, they left a few plays in the passing game there that they easily could have had. And again, that would have made a very different impression. If we start to see, like you said in the open, some momentum on Thursday, and they have a similarly productive game against the Commanders in the pass game, whether or not they complete it all, again, we don't really care about the wins and losses. We want them, but that's not the thing here. It's, did they have a good design? Did they run good routes? Were the plays there to be made? If they make them, awesome. If that adds up to a win, even better. But more interestingly, we want to see, let's see 25 pass attempts, and let's not get in a 21-point hole in the first quarter. let's see if we can sort of play from the beginning, both in sort of number of attempts and hanging with the opposition, maybe hit a couple of those early touchdowns or even just one through the air and see what that game looks like and build that game after game, even if that only goes for the next 3 or 4 games. It'll be really interesting to take a chart like this and say, okay, since since the beginning of the Vikings game, his chart looks like this, whereas before the Vikings game, the previous 4 games look like this. And I want to see a pretty stark difference there, and I feel like there was no reason to believe that was coming other than blind faith before the Vikings game. And now it's like, no, it's on tape. Look, he did it. Let him do it some more.
Absolutely. 100% agree, except for the part where you said, we don't really care about a win on Thursday because I do, because I'm going to
Yeah.
be there. I'm very selfish.
Well, I meant the season.
Yeah.
Actually really deeply desire a win because I love the guys from the Irish Bear Show, but I love you and your mom even more. And I can't believe it's her first game. I mean, not practice at Soldier Field. And I want, frankly, nothing more than a win for her over the Commanders. And I think it's really possible.
For sure.
I just want, this is just the word of caution to Justin Fields, who does not watch or listen to this show, but maybe somebody that talks to Justin does. Stay away from Cam Curl. Like, Cam Curl is playing really good football right now. Nobody's talking about Cam Curl. Cam Curl's playing excellent football right now. If you've got it's just Cam Curl on him shot, maybe check down on that one.
Okay.
Other than that, this is a team that I think the Bears can take advantage of and can get a win out of. They are not steamrolling anybody. They have their very own issues on offense. The defense has been up and down. There's not a tremendous pass rush right now. Cam Curl aside, the defense has been playing not super great. Cam Curl's been playing amazing. Like, this is a team that the Bears could win against, even in their current state. And there's not that many of those. And I'd love to see it. And because now that I know that you and your mom are going to be there, I want to see it.
Well, let's get out of here so I can pack and get ready. But let's talk about the beers before that, or the drinks before that, since I brought on bourbon. How was your Pabst Blue Ribbon?
Pabst is my cheap beer of choice. I love Pabst. It agrees with me. I agree with it. It is known and expected. You know what you're getting when you get a Pabst. If you get a bunch of fresh Pabst from some place that sells a bunch of it, it's even better. A little bit sweeter if you're sort of into that sort of thing. It's just, you can count on it, right? Probably very similar feeling that your grandfather had. Like, I'm going to have a whole bunch of this because I know what I'm getting and it's going to be on hand. So nothing unexpected, everything you're looking for. That's the gig with Pabst. How was your Smoke Wagon? Because I just love the name.
And great marketing, great packaging. I mean, honestly, again, not a sponsor, but if you would like to be, let me know. If you guys are watching out there.
Yeah, these guys too, because these guys are pretty fun.
Sure.
They sponsor live music and they've got a lot more cash than most people. So Paps, if you want to come on board, we'd love to have you.
We would love to have you. So they describe this as our high rye content bourbon is aged in the heart of a century-old brick warehouse barrels. And sorry,
I was gonna say they make their barrels out of brick.
Sorry, there's a period. It's
okay.
all caps, so it's very hard to read, and then it's in gold.
This is a font thing.
Barrels are hand selected to create a perfect blend that is smooth, delicate, and at the same time bold and intense. This unique complexity is achieved by combining multiple vintages of the same mash bill. So I actually think I can taste that. I didn't read that before that, but I think that I can taste that, in that you do have a smooth finish, which is great. Like it's a smooth experience, but you do taste like kind of the spiciness of a younger, certainly the rye. You taste the spiciness or maybe even smokiness, the charness of a younger bourbon, but you still get kind of the nice mellow flavors that kind of achieve at the end of the finish. And so I thought this was kind of marketing and was just kind of, whatever.
Pretty bottle.
Yeah. And especially a first pour. A lot of times, the first pour out of a new
Right.
bottle isn't that great. It's called neck pour, and sometimes it's just not that great, and you just kind of have to let it open up a little bit. I'm pretty intrigued, actually. This was pretty decent. So we'll see how the rest of the bottle goes, but pretty good first run there. So what do you got going on this week? It's again short week for us at the site. There's tons of stuff up already, and then the game will be tomorrow. I'm going live. I'm gonna at some point. At some point,
At some
Robert
point.
and I are going to try to figure out how to do 10-minute drill live, and hopefully I
Oh,
can do it like at the stadium or maybe even inside the stadium.
that'd be
And
cool.
yeah, I don't know. I just asked him if he wanted to go live in
Sure.
this, while I was there. So we're gonna try that. So hang around. See the YouTube notification pop up. Check us out to check out the live stream, and you can see live from Soldier Field. And I'll try to find the Irish Beers guys too.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Either way, it's gonna be great. I was on Bill Zimmerman's pod, which dropped today. Um, Obviously, this will come out tomorrow on the channel for those of you that didn't watch it live. Um, Bootleg came out today, which is Wednesday. We'll be doing the Thursday night live stream, which is strangely enough Commanders versus Bears over on the Bootleg YouTube channel, as per usual. Running all our good slips with our friends from Prize Picks, so swing by and check that out. And yeah, that's the formal schedule. I keep getting asked to do other stuff, but that's the stuff I know about right now. I'll just put that caveat out there.
Perfect. All right. Well, we'll get out of here. We will stick around for the YouTube crowd for some Q&A, but for you guys listening on the podcast, thanks for joining us. And until next time, bear down. Thank you very much, Twinquist, by the way. Thank you very much for that. Imagine what we'd be saying if Monty didn't score on the touchdown on the shotgun run up the middle. That wasn't like a third down, was it? Was it a second down run, and then there was time on the clock. So, I mean, yes, if they didn't score a touchdown there, we would probably be like, "What the hell?" But
I mean,
I think there
yes.
was time left. There was definitely time left, and I don't think that wasn't a third down run. I could be wrong. I mean, I'll check that out, but it didn't
Uh,
happen. He
there,
got in the end zone.
yeah, there's so many plays like that though in a game. We highlighted a bunch that were, hair's breadth from going one way or another. Could have gone the Bears' way. Could have gone that way early. Every game between two teams in the NFL has a bunch of plays like that were,
Oh, it
close.
was
Well,
third down. Look at me.
so yeah,
I'm
the
wrong.
old
It's third down.
maybe not last week's Thursday night game. Maybe that game didn't have plays like that because it was a complete and utter, garbage fire. But no, it's typical that there are some near misses for both teams that really could swing things. Games in the NFL very tight. We saw it again this week. There were two kinds of categories. There was blowouts, and then there was games that were really, really close. They were 3 to 7 points well into the fourth quarter. And there are those every week. There's a lot of parity in the NFL, and those plays, make no mistake, they will swing games. If Justin gets, if they don't call the holding on Justin's long touchdown run, that swings the game. You stack that on a couple of touchdowns from the first half and passing game that we talked about that were, a nails width away. This is it's a very different game. The Bears win that going away at that point. That's something we didn't expect for sure. Definitely not preseason. So it's interesting to dig into. Gave me a lot of hope. Sometimes that just bums you out. Like if you're a fan of a team that we are not, that routinely makes those plays and they don't make those, it feels like a bummer because you've come to expect it. With a developing team, certainly developing offense like the Bears, when they get close to those plays, you're like, man, that was really close. Like they absolutely could have made that play right there. That comes as more of a comfort. That comes as a, hey, they're close. Like,
I agree. Charles asks, "Will QB1 be the best player on the field tomorrow?" Who's better?
better right now, Terry McLaurin.
Okay.
Like easily. Who's playing better right now? Cam Curl.
I'll accept McLaurin.
You should talk about Deron Payne right now.
I think Deron Payne's really good.
Deron
I think
Payne's
he's really good.
crushing it right now. He's
Yeah.
been very solid up to this point, and that's kind of been my I don't want to say hang up with him, but my limitation with him is he is back to Denny Green. He is what we thought he was, right? He's a big, solid, run stuffing defensive lineman from Alabama, and there are many good ones. He's sharing this line with another one. But this season it's a tick higher than that. He's really mashing the inside of offensive game plans regularly.
I put together the visuals every week for 10-minute drill, and I highlight 2 star players on offense and 2 star players on defense for the opposing team. And I did not highlight Cam Curl because that's not a guy that I really know about. But when I have watched some Commanders stuff, I've watched, I don't know, 6 quarters of Commanders, like not, probably enough. I wish I could watch every game. I'll put it that way, but I can't.
Yeah.
I highlighted Jonathan Allen and Deron Payne as my star players on defense, and I was like, "Oh God, interior defensive lineman against our interior offensive line." Uh-oh.
Yeah, it's not going to be pretty. And for those of you that are looking, for those of you that play fantasy football and have David Montgomery or Khalil Herbert, there is going to be tough sledding. Somebody in the comments said, "I'm worried about the Commanders' D line." I see that. Who is that? John said, "I am worried about the Commanders' D line." In one way, yes, and the way is don't expect a lot of rushing lanes against the Commanders. But
Right.
as we just talked about, is this the chance to open it up and let Justin have 20 attempts in the first half? Might be, because their pass rush is not great. Like, Sweat is good. James Smith-Williams is okay. Strangely enough, I ran into his family like 2 years ago at a deli. Like, they were like, "Oh, we have a like nephew that plays in the NFL," and I was like, "Oh, really? Who is it?" And they're like, "Oh, it's James Smith." I was like, "Oh," and I spouted off all his stats and where he played college, and they were like, "Who are you?" I was like, "Yeah." Anyways,
It's a whole thing.
he's not
It's a whole
there. Yeah, he's not there yet. So their pass rush is hit or miss. Obviously, Bryce Young has been out the whole year. If he was there and Sweat, he and Sweat on either side of Payne and Allen, like, it would be a different machine altogether. So I don't expect big rushing numbers. I think the Bears can manage. Now, again, pass protection has been, toss a coin, see if it's any good. But if they get decent pass protection, they're going to have some time, and that's what Fields needs. He needs a little bit of time, and if he does that, he's proved that he can make gains in the passing game.
Yeah, I just wanted another one from Charles. There's a lot of talk about Mooney in the chat, and is he a number one? Is he? I feel like we kind of boil that down and simplify. Is he one of the 8 or 10 best receivers in the league? He's not. Is he 25th in the league? That's probably about his range, somewhere around there. I think he's a good wide receiver, but I think that he's not a dominant X wide receiver, obviously, which is what a lot of people think of. And he's certainly not Tyreek Hill, who has a skill set that's unmatched by anybody in terms of what he brings with the speed game. He's not Mike Evans. He's not the big X receiver that just puts up 10 touchdowns every year. And he's certainly not Justin Jefferson, who in my book right now, he's top 2, if not top 1, right? To me, he's the best thing going. Someone says, good stuff. Nice work on the slide. Thank you. I appreciate that. And then someone followed up. How long does it take to make all of this? I am practiced. These are things that I do, regularly. I have been creating this stuff for almost a decade and probably doing it longer than that before for, I don't know, my friends for Fantasy Football League and junk like that. And I do stuff like this for work. So,
can you imagine if you got a trade proposal in fantasy football from JB? Because it would come with like animated slides and stats and what you were getting.
So many people don't trade with me because they think that I'm just trying to rip them off. And so often I'm like offering 120% just to try to get.
But you are trying to rip them off.
No, I'm not. That's the thing is I approach it from I have excess value at one position group.
Yes.
and I need this other position group. So, I'm trying to find
What
the team where I can help that, and I can pull full talent off and make it a win-win. I really do put in the work, because trying to rip people off is just isn't very fun when you're going to be in
no.
this league with this person for who knows how long.
I want to buy the used Subaru with 110,000 miles that you're selling right now. Like, come on, it sounds great. I love the color. No, what JB's trying to say is he needs running backs real bad right now. So if you have some, just offer him up. He'll take them.
I just acquired Kenneth Walker. So
Oh yes, we were just talking about that yesterday. Nice work.
yep.
It's
So very
exciting stuff.
excited because I needed that badly. Swift being hurt and now on a bye week has put me
Yep.
in a hole, and Cam Akers being terrible.
Yeah,
It's
Cam's well, the entire this is a stat that I came across this week. Not necessarily an interest to Bears fans, but Matt Stafford and Matt Ryan have the same number of touchdowns, the same number of interceptions, and the same number of sacks this year.
yikes.
Yikes! It's not a good number, and none of those numbers are good, and they share all of them. It's concerning if you're a Rams fan. So the whole offense has been a bit mired.
And by the way, that last guy was a Packers fan, so I guess
Yeah,
thanks for hanging
hey,
out, man. That's
he's
cool.
crossing enemy lines. I loved it. That's great.
No, you gotta do some scouting. You gotta
For
see
sure.
what's going
Yeah.
on. This was the comment from John, like you said, he's worried about
Yeah,
the
and
Gators.
at full throat, at full health, yeah. On paper, Bryce Young in there, that is a scary defensive line. Like a lot of investment, a lot of talent. They've made it a priority. Not unlike San Francisco, like they've dumped a lot of resource into that defensive line. If they're all there and playing at a high level, yeah, that's the strength of that defense for sure. Bryce being out makes a difference. Again, the two guys they have in the middle can create pass pressure, but they typically don't. It's not really their thing. Don't try and run against either one of them, though. So they are perfect for playing off like loop stunts with Montez Sweat, because they can occupy blockers like mothers. Like they are really good at that, and get Sweat coming in behind them. Whoever on the Bears line is free is going to have to pick that up. And that's a challenge. Montez was a great athlete, good rusher in that case. So he's got these two pillars next to him, and that lets him freelance a little bit more. So but in terms of balance, I can think of other lines that I'm more scared about. Oh,
Yeah,
this is a good one.
yeah. Well,
Oh, I
gotta
got,
do the yeah.
yeah. No. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. No, they've not been good.
Right.
Morrow has been up and down. He's played not as well as I thought he was going to. And Roquan is a whole different story. Roquan played terrible, very good, slid right back to what you consider average or slightly worse. And this is a guy that's pushing for max value at the position in the entire league, not on the team. I would not pay him that right now
No.
if I was the Bears brain trust, because and that's a tough thing for me to say, because I love Roquan. I predicted him in that draft slot to the Bears. I was incredibly happy when he ended up there. He has played very well, and he shows great potential. 2 years ago, I mounted a Roquan's an all-pro soapbox full with stats. I went full JB. Well, not full
I
JB because,
remember.
yeah. And he, in my mind, was second best inside linebacker in the league behind Fred Warner when you added up everything, not just the flashier stats. And he didn't do any of it on national TV. I get it. I get how that, but he was top 3 for sure in the league. Right now, he's lucky, and I mean lucky, if he's top 10 or 15. I think top 15 is pushing it for how he's played over the course of the year. Now, people will look at the one game and say, see, and I will put up the other 4 games and go, see, this is a guy getting just run out of plays and not really looking like that's not what a dominating inside linebacker does. He sets the play by getting to the gap first, blowing up the block, and making the tackle. Like, that's what that guy does. Roquan has shown very, very little of that this year. So yes, you should be a little bit worried. I like the young guys. I almost wish they were playing, because they will make some mistakes. Young guys will always make mistakes, but I would love to see Jack Sanborn in there for either Roquan or Morrow, because neither one has been, indispensable at this point. They both had stretches of pretty average. Roquan had one good game out of 5. Like that's not amazing, and it bums me out because he is a great player, but I couldn't tell you what's going on.
Right. So, I mean, if it does come down to him just being not right in this scheme, which is fine. I mean, everybody say, "Hey, he's going to be perfect in this scheme. He's going to be amazing. He's going to." Sometimes it doesn't happen. Right? You got the
Sometimes it
proof's
doesn't
in the
happen.
pudding, and sometimes it just doesn't work out. So, I I would say that you can't sit him because you have to figure out what he is.
Oh,
Because
for
you have to
sure.
make a decision. So that's
If he's
Morrow,
healthy, he's got to be on the field.
right?
And
Morrow, whatever.
I don't. I actually don't think that's true. I think Morrow, they paid the
You give him
same
time to
amount
figure
for.
it out.
Yeah, they paid Morrow the same amount that Philly paid Kazir White, like, who I liked a little bit better than Morrow. They're both $4 million guys. Like, that's mid-level inside linebacker money now. That's not, it's not tops certainly, but it's not bottoms either. And it's not a 1-year deal. So again, you want to see if he's going to develop, and if he isn't, you know, it's a high injury position. It's totally possible that either one of those guys gets dinged, twists an ankle or whatever, and then the younger guys are going to get some run. They got a little bit of run earlier, but some more extended run, and maybe they flash, and then you go, oh well, we've got something better in the barn, but you don't know that for sure. So it's for a position that has traditionally been a Chicago stronghold, it's not been a great season for the inside linebacker so far.
Right. Right. No, I think right now you're letting Roquan walk. I mean, if you had to
Yeah,
make the
he's not
decision right
even
now.
franchise right now. We talked about this. Bill and I talked about this yesterday on his pod. Roquan's playing himself out of a franchise tag right now. Forget a long-term extension. It was long-term extension or franchise tag or walk. And walk was like, no, you can't. And even I say, like, you've got all this money for the Bears, but who else are you going to pay of the current stable of players? And the answer is like, there's nobody. Like, Roquan is the one guy that you would consider in a position of a younger, hopefully ascending type player that you
Second contract.
drafted home ground. Like, yeah, like, you pay him just because there's a lack of other guys to pay and you have $100 million. Like, you don't let guys like that walk. But right now, if he keeps playing, if he doesn't turn the light on and just sort of light it up for the second half of the season, you don't even franchise that guy, because a franchise tag is like 19 million. Like, it's not cheap.
Not going to be popular. Not going to be popular. And I'm an analytics guy as much as more than most people. But right now, the guy that you give a second contract to is David Montgomery, because, and I'm not saying you pay top dollar because it never works out that way,
Yeah.
but you make him a solid offer because he really is playing well and he's heart and soul right now. So that isn't popular. People want to hand it over to
If
Herbert.
he'll take a hometown discount,
Yeah,
and
if
I
you'll take a reasonable deal, let's just
right,
call it that.
well, that's a hometown discount, right? If he's not
Yeah, that
going
doesn't
top
exist.
dollar,
It's normally like a hometown premium, right?
right? But and I don't. Here's the other thing: is I love David Montgomery. He is playing the lights out right now. You don't pay running backs, like, because you can always get them. You
I
offer him.
agree.
I know you offer
But
him,
who you give the
like,
money to?
that's the thing, is you offer him less money right now than I think he should take. If I'm David Montgomery, I say no, I can get more elsewhere, and he's probably not wrong, and good for him. He needs to get paid. He plays the worst position in professional sports in terms of wear and tear. Like, he should do whatever is right for him and his future and whatever else. I love David Montgomery. He's playing great right now. I still say you don't pay him, because you just look every year, there's this plethora of backs, 5th round and down, UDFAs. You can fill a very good running back stable behind Khalil Herbert for like 1,850,000 for 2 other guys. And look, you're never getting Montgomery for that. I get that he is a super hard worker, locker room glue, producer on the field at a high level. Starting to see it in the passing game too. That's amazing. But you still don't chuck the money out to him because it never works out.
I'm just saying.
I know you're just saying.
I'm just saying it, and again, I get it from the math perspective, but there's the team building perspective that you have to consider, and I think there's a possibility. That's it.
I hope, as a Bears fan, like if you just want to talk about heart, not head,
Yeah,
like
of course.
I hope. I really like David Montgomery. He plays his ass off. He's tough as hell. He's super skilled. Like he's everything you want, but sorry, bud. Yeah, it's stars just shine the wrong way. You're a running back. Running backs get chewed up and spit out. And when you pay them enough money that you have to spread it out over multiple years, it never lasts ever. It always looks good. You know what it's like, JB?
What do you got?
It's like that drink at the end of the night. People are like, "Oh, you want one more?" And you're like, "I don't know. The last 5 been really good. That one looks awesome." And the next morning, you're like, "It was one too many. I shouldn't have done it. I shouldn't have done it." And running back contracts are like that. He's been so good. He's been so healthy. He's been so strong. He's doing great. Let's give him a bunch of money. Whack every time. And you're like, it's one too many. Shouldn't have done it.
I'm just saying.
That's
it. So I'm just saying.
That's right.
It's
a battle of the just sayings. I'm
seeing a path because
I hope so.
Circumstances and all that. So yeah, I'm not even saying this is what I would do. I'm seeing a path. I can see a defensible path. I'll put it that way.
I would hope that modern running back agents aren't just like, well, running backs used to get, and rather see the trend and go, dude, like you could get, $1 million more to go over here. And look, $1 million, if you're going to make it, if it's real money, in a contract is a lot of money. And I would go get that. Like, you're going to get $1 million over here, but they love you here. You're ensconced as one of the lead backs. Production, the system, the coaches, the blockers. There's a lot of good things here. Do you want to move for $1 million? So,
all right. Well, I need to do a couple things before I leave.
Funny how that happens. Yeah.
So this was a busy day for me, but I appreciate you spending the time that you did to break down the film, and I enjoyed watching it again and watching trying to just watch Justin Fields in the passing game. The scrambles were fun too, but I just try to focus on the passing game on this one and map it out. Hopefully you guys like that, and we'll continue to do more stuff like that. I'll continue to try to put visualizations together where it makes sense, or grades out or whatever. Just try to pull some stuff in that give you a different angle than maybe you're seeing other places, and we'll continue to do that. So yeah, otherwise we'll probably be in the same slot next week, unless because you don't have Tuesdays available as much. So we'll continue in this slot, even though it'll be a long, it'll be 6 days after the game, but we'll come back next Wednesday. Join Lester and I on Friday night, though. We're going to do Bear and Balance on Friday night as opposed to waiting until Monday. So we like
fancy.
The day after. Yeah, so we'll do a little Friday night, hang out with us on Friday. If you have a Zima in your fridge, bring that, to tempt Lester with, because that's the beverage of choice for Lester.
I'm going to find like a pallet of those in some dusty warehouse sometime, and I'm going to be like, how much do you want for that? I know a guy.
I mean, they did make like a special batch a couple of years ago. But
yeah, they did a rerun
a few years ago.
Yeah.
So really, you just need to make an appeal to Coors and say, you got to bring this back, because I think Coors owns it. So anyway, all right, guys. We'll see you next week. Thanks for joining us.